who is one of my sorors from Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. and, and and I am so happy to talk to her. And she said a couple of things about me off camera. She said,
Let me tell him, I am nervous because I am in front of royalty, guys. This is our soror royalty. Thank you so much for having me.
oh, you are so welcome. And I just want to jump right in and get started. Everybody's talking about all the new work that they are seeing you do on YouTube and all of that. And they're just really excited because you've been in this business for a while. And a lot of people still talk about the fact that they remember you from the Jamie Foxx show. But of course, you have done numerous other projects since then. And I just want to ask you, what is it like being one of the actors that was kind of at the forefront of the movement of African American television series? Because prior to some of the work that you did, we didn't see very many of our images on camera. Sometimes we'd see ourselves on a show like What's Happening, Good Times, That's My Mama, The White Shadow, 227. But then when those shows were canceled, we had like this long wait in between seeing ourselves. And now we're seeing ourselves a lot. So, can you comment on your journey and what it feels like to know that there are so many more opportunities for people of color?
Wow, that's an awesome question. And you are absolutely correct about that. So let me see, how can I start with that? I know that, like you were saying, I grew up, watching Good Times, grew up watching, what was it? I didn't grow up with In Living Color, but by the time In Living Color came about, that was when Jamie Foxx, that's why I wanted to bring that one up next. Jamie Foxx was on In Living Color. And I remember watching him on In Living Color, and then I remember seeing him because then there was a show called Rock. I don't know if you guys remember it was sort of like a dramatic comedy called Rock, and Jamie Foxx was on that as well. And then I got the opportunity to see Jamie in his HBO special, where I wasn't aware that he was an extraordinary pianist, that he could play the piano, that he could sing. Not only did he do stand-up comedy and he could act. And I thought, wow, that is so awesome. I look forward to one day working with this guy. Well, bringing the story forward, it never occurred to me in my wildest dreams. I just threw it out there like, one day I just want to work with this guy, that I would land, oh my goodness, first the audition in California. And I'm still new to California. I've only been here maybe about what it hasn't even been a year that I've been in California when they had this open call audition for the Jamie Foxx show. And every actor who is all of us, there's not much work for us. So we were all there. We all showed up for those auditions for whatever the role of the auntie. I was there. And what happened for me was that I believe I was the youngest one that was able to be allowed to audition for that role. And I remember when I went in to audition for the callback, because I was so nervous because I'd seen all of these actresses, I'd seen their work, I've seen what they were doing, and they really had that look of, little girl, get out of here, you're too young, blah, blah, blah kind of thing. So I went in for that final callback, and I remembered I got to read with Jamie, and he was saying, we're going to read the script, and then after that, we're going to just go off script, and you just follow me. And that was the best roller coaster ride I had ever had since I'd been in California. It was so exciting. And at that point, I was like, I don't know if I get it or not. I at least had that experience, and I did get to work with him, even if it was in an audition. So they did look at me, and they were like, the producers were like, well, you're kind of young, how old are you? I happened to, on that day, have a photo of myself that I had done a print ad for a casino, and I think they played it in like Nevada and places that in California. And I looked so much older than I did in the audition, and I believe that was what gave me that little bit of a push. So when I got home, it wasn't before long that my agent called and said that I was cast in the show. And then I get the privilege to work with, oh my goodness, oh Cynthia, Garrett Morris, the
Oh,
legend
yeah.
Garrett Morris. I got to play his wife. I mean, I truly grew up watching him on Saturday Night Live. He's a trailblazer, you know what I mean? He was
Mhm.
the first African American on Saturday Night Live. And I would always say to him every day, "You're my legend, you're my legend." And it was a privilege and an honor to be a part of that cast. Jamie Foxx, who's brilliant. Garcelle Bouvet, of course, you know, playing Fancy, and Braxton, played by Christopher B. Duncan. We were like a family, and we were grateful. We recognized what was going on at that time because we were, look, first we had Martin before us, right? We had Martin, and then we came along, and then the next thing you know, we got the Steve Harvey show. We got, and it was just on and on and on. It was absolutely an awesome moment because at that time we felt everybody was trying to do it. And so they were just throwing things up against the wall to see what would stick. They created the CW network, they created the UPN network, you know, to put us on. And I'm grateful that that era came about, and I honored, woo, a privilege and an honor to have been a part of that, and to still be able to see us still on television and see that there's still projects that we can work on, and that more work is coming for us, and how the industry has changed with, you know, going into streaming and all of that. It is so different, but we're still here, and I'm grateful for that. I guess we can say we're still standing.
Yep. And that's a testament to you being able to withstand the test of time, because a lot of times when people are in this business, they kind of abuse their bodies. And especially some of the comedians that I personally knew, they didn't take care of themselves properly. Otherwise, they would still be here. And so I'm just glad that you are still here and you're still doing what you love. And it's funny that you mentioned that when you auditioned for the Jamie Foxx show, they didn't necessarily take you that seriously because you were so young. And that's kind of what happened with me with Right On. I was like the youngest person
Mhm.
that they interviewed for the job, and they kept having me come back and forth because
Mhm.
she's like a little girl. Because
Right?
I looked even I looked even younger in person than I did. I looked like somebody that might have been in junior high school. So, so we have that experience in common, that we had to figure out ways to make ourselves be heard.
Yes, so
Yeah,
true, so true.
until they could see that we could really do the work.
Amen.
Yep. Now let's talk about Curb Your Enthusiasm for a minute.
Okay, curb your enthusiasm. Of course, everybody, if you don't know, we actually premiered the final episode of season 12 last night. So now all the episodes have been played, so you can go to streaming at Stream on Max and you can catch all 12 episodes. But that part came about for me, which is another blessing. I remember they had an audition because they wanted to create a black family, a family, you know, in the show. And we were actually called the Blacks. It was like Auntie Ray Black. That was my last name was Black. And we were this displaced family by a hurricane, right? Sort of on the guise of Hurricane Katrina. And so I remember when I went in and auditioned for that one, I'll never forget. And Larry David was at the audition, and they were telling me in the audition, because I didn't know this before I got inside, that I was going to have to tackle Larry David and take him down. And so that was nerve-wracking for me. I'd like studied my lines. I was like, I can read with him, I can do that. But the fact that I've now got to tackle him and I don't want to hurt him or anything. And so he was so kind and generous. And he said to me, don't worry about it. Just go for it. When you get ready to do it, just go for it. And that's exactly what I did. And when I took him down, everybody in the room just uproared in this laughter but I was sitting there going, are you okay? Trying to help him up. Are you okay? Are you okay? Checking on him. And so it was truly a blessing and an honor to be cast in that show. Oh my goodness. With Vivica Fox, with JB Smooth, with, oh my goodness, what were the baby's name? Keish Carla Jeffrey and Nick Nervies, who were the little grandbabies. And we had so much fun. I know you've heard that the show is unscripted, right? So that means we didn't have a script. We actually had to come up with the dialogue. It was actually all improv. They gave us
Wow.
an idea, right, of what the scene was going to be about. And then we would have to come up with what it is that we were going to be saying to each other, which meant we had to really be listening and we had to pay attention to what was going on and stay within the parameter of what the scene was about. And I remember when we first rehearsed, I loved how we did our rehearsals because they didn't want us to say any dialogue until they were actually shooting. So what we did was when we were talking to each other, when we were rehearsing, camera rehearsing, we would say yada, 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 yada. And I loved doing that. I loved that. But once the cameras started rolling, the adrenaline started pumping, and we started going, the hardest job was to not break. Do not laugh because you don't want to be the one to ruin this camera shot because we want to try to get everything in one take. And that was not easy to do, but it was exciting. It was wonderful. And once again, grateful. I'm grateful, grateful, grateful. That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah. And now let's talk about my sisters and me.
Yay, my sisters and me. I'm excited about my sisters and me because Maddie Carruthers, who is the creator, the writer, and she's the one who directed it. Maddie and I met on the Jamie Foxx show when I was doing the Jamie Foxx show.
Oh,
And
really?
Maddie, yes, and she was the associate producer. So Maddie also was going through some of the things that you and I went through when she like was hired for that job because most of that job was mostly taken by men. You know, women weren't supposed to have that job. So when she came in, you know, the men were going to try to give her a hard time. You're not going to be telling us what to do. And she and I developed this wonderful friendship. And she was also working as a script supervisor. And she and I would run lines together and I would work on my scenes and she and I would talk. And so we talked about doing a project together. And so she came to me before we were done, actually, before we finished our last episode of the Jamie Foxx show with this awesome script, My Sisters and Me. And she wanted me to play the me in My Sisters and Me. And I said to her, it would be an honor. And I am so grateful. My Sisters and Me, oh my goodness, it is a half-hour sitcom comedy about these three distinct generations of ageless and vivacious Black sisters who must live under the same roof without killing each other. And I'm the youngest of those three sisters. And my character, it was used to living alone. The two older sisters had moved away. And so I was trying to have my own life because they were always bossy, you know. And so they've now moved back in. And now it's the time to try to continue to hold on to me being me and not have to kowtow to the fact that I got to listen to my big sisters and we're also trying not to kill each other too. So I said, I know a lot of people can relate to that, whether it's you got sisters or you got brothers, or I remember I was talking to this guy and he was telling me a story about his older sisters that, you know, when his dad passed, his mom came to him and said, you know, you're the man of the house now. And so he got himself all puffed up and he went to his big sisters and he was like, I'm the man of the house. Mom said, I'm the man of the house. And she punched him in the face and knocked his teeth out. So I thought, oh my goodness, this sibling rivalry is all around. And so I'm excited about that. We're dropping them, the episode as webisodes. episodes every Thursday night. And so we're about to actually premiere our 13th episode this Thursday night coming. So there right now, once we drop them, you can go in and you can watch them, and you can watch them back to back to back. So everybody, you can go now and go ahead and do your binge watch so you can get caught up so that you can see what's going to happen in this final episode on this Thursday coming. But I'm excited to be the me and my sisters and me.
Now, I want to ask you about your first name. It's a very interesting, unique name. It's beautiful. So, what are the origins of your name?
That's a great question. Ellia, my name, Ellia English. So Ellia, when I was born, my mom had a totally different name for me. I think I'm about to tell this story for the first time. So I had a different name for me. Her uncle wanted her to name me after his daughter. And so she had already named my older brother, who was born before me, after his son. So he expected her to name me after his daughter. And I think I can't even remember, but it was a name that God bless her. I was a great name for her, but it wasn't a name that I wanted. And so I was, I believe, the only child of my mom's that actually was born at home. All the others were born in the hospital, but a midwife delivered me. And so when I was born and my mom told the midwife the name, when she filled out the paper, she spelled the name Ellia. And then, of course, I have a middle name and the last name. But so when my parents finally, after it was filed and everything, that's when she saw what the name was. So I was being called by my middle name from the time I was little until I could grow up and actually tell people what my name was. So by the time I loved reading as a kid, and so by the time I was like, I guess 6 or 7, I knew my name was Ellia, and I would tell people my name was Ellia. Well, by the time I started school, no one was pronouncing it correctly. They would either say Elia or Elijah or Elia. It was all kinds of things. And so when I was in first grade, I dropped the I out of my name and said, never mind, just call me Ella, because that's my mom's name. My mom's name was Ella. And so from first grade through 11th grade, because I graduated from the 11th grade, people knew me as Ella. And then when I went off to college, I'll never forget Susan. She was, I believe she was a senior, and we were in the music department. And I had started telling people my name, Ella, but she looked at my name and she's looked at the spelling and she said, "What is your name really?" And I said, "Well, it's really Ellia, but it's easier if I just tell people it's Ella because they don't, they can't pronounce the name." And she said, you should tell people your real name. She said, you should let people know what your real name is and have them pronounce your real name. And so from that point on, I started saying, my name is Ellia, and that's it. So when I moved to California and I was living in Burbank, I remember it was a Jewish couple, and I was telling them I had just moved into the apartment building, and they were telling I'm Ellia English, and they went, Ellia. They said, "Do you know what your name means?" And I went, "Not really." And they gave me the Hebrew definition. They gave me the breakdown of it. It was Yah. And they said it means God in you. And I learned it when I first moved to California that my name meant God in you, Ellia. And I said, I'm definitely going to make sure everybody now says Ellia for my name. So that's how my name came about. Thank you so much for asking that question.
Oh, you're welcome. I always ask good questions. That's what I'm known for.
You do.
Now, I know we'll have to wrap up soon, but I have two more questions to ask. One of them is, when did you realize that you were funny? Because a lot
Oh,
of people that are comedians have told me that they were either the class clown or they were really shy and never really spoke. So that's two categories. Eddie Murphy was in the category of the people that were shy.
I'm
And
the shy. I was also in the category of the shy, but at home, I wasn't shy. So I didn't consider myself funny. As a matter of fact, my siblings felt like I got on their nerves. I enjoyed singing. I enjoyed performing, and my older siblings they were the ones that always hogged the television. And so we got to watch things, like the Jackson 5. And I know you you know them because you got an opportunity to interview them. You got to be with them. Okay, okay, let me calm down. Let me calm down. Okay, so I told you, you are royalty. You're royalty, my love. So yeah, we got to watch them. So we watched, we were watching the Jackson Fives, we watched the Supremes and doing things like that. And so I was closer to my younger siblings. So I'm the middle of my family. There are four older than me and four under me. And so my older siblings, I was too young to ever be around them. And so my best friends were my younger siblings. So my two younger sisters under me, we would pretend to be the Supremes. And I was always the one that said, I got to be Diana. I'm going to be Diana. And so
Sweet.
yeah, and then and we go outside in our backyard and pretend to be the Supremes. And then I'd also create scenarios where we would play skit acting. And so my father ended up becoming a pastor when I was 16, but he was a deacon first. He was superintendent of the Sunday school, which at 12 years old, I actually taught the Sunday school class. And then he became a deacon, and then he became a pastor. Well, so that means we were in church. And back then when we were growing up, once you went to church, you were in church from morning until night. If you might have had a chance to go home, get something to eat, and then come back. And so we did church plays, and I was the preacher. I'm going to preach the sermon that day. And I was told after I grew up from some of the neighbors that their grandparents talked about me when I was play acting in the backyard, that when they couldn't make the church service, they would come and sit on their back porch and listen to me do sermons. I learned about that after I grew up. So I never considered myself a comedian or anything. And I didn't get into acting until college. In junior high school, I started playing the flute. So I did music, and then I also sang in the chorus. So I sang in the chorus, and then I from junior high school, and I also did it in high school. So I was thinking that I would probably play actually, I also love science. So I was gonna I wanted to take physics. So I had gone to summer school, and I took a physical science class because my counselor had said, when I said to them, I want to take physics, and they said, well, you can't take physics yet because you haven't taken physical science. And so I said, well, I'm going to go to summer school. I'm going to take physical science in summer school so that I could take physics. Well, I had to then take chemistry in 11th grade, and then I was going to get to take physics in 12th grade. So I was looking forward to taking physics. I like, who knew I could be a physicist because I loved science, but I also loved music. And so I played the flute and I sang in the church choir, sang in the school choir. And I thought maybe I'll go and I'll join the orchestra. I'll be part of the flute section in the orchestra. Or maybe I'll create my own choir and I'll sing with a choir. Well, when I went off to college, I did sing in the choir, and the head of the drama department at that time, her name was Joan Lewis, Dr. Lewis. I'll never forget her. She had heard about me because some of the kids that were in the drama department were also in the choir, and I'd been given like 2 solos, and so I was singing my solo. It was the day that I was going to be rehearsing my solo, and the kids had asked her to come down, and they hid her in the auditorium, and I didn't know she was there, and she got to hear me sing, and then she came up at the end of the rehearsal and introduced herself to me and asked me if I would come up to the drama auditorium and meet with her. And so I went, and I was so nervous. It was one thing when I was singing with a group of people that I was comfortable with, but now she wanted me to go up on that stage and just sing a part of the song she had just heard me sing, but I had to do it, by myself. And she said, are you nervous? And I said, yeah, I really am. And she said, I tell you what, she said, you see that microphone over there? She said, go and grab that microphone and just hold on to it. And I think you'll feel much better. And I did. I grabbed that microphone and I held on to it. And the song that I sang was called Thank You, Lord. And I grabbed that microphone and I was like, I woke up soon one morning. I didn't have any food for my table, but I'm glad I got the privilege to tell somebody the God I serve, I know he's able. And so she said to me, I'm casting you in my musical. She gave me 3 solo songs. The one was No Bad News from the Wiz. I know you know that one. When I wake up in the afternoon, which it pleases me to do, don't nobody bring me no bad news. And then she gave me a song I'd never heard of called Walk Him Up from Pearly. and I sang that one. And then I did Day by Day from Godspell. And when I did that, it was the most amazing experience. It was a place where nobody was telling me, "Oh, shut up. Would you be go shut up and sit down?" They were all doing what I was doing. They loved what I loved. And I realized the smell of the grease paint and the roar of the crowd, and I was hooked. And I said, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I still wasn't sure then, Cynthia. So Dr. Lewis also came to me, and she said I would always go up and visit her because I just loved her. She kind of like became a second mom to me away from my mom. And so she told me about an audition that they were having in Atlanta at the Omni International. And there was a theater there called the Manhattan Yellow Pages. And she said, they're going to be doing this all Black musical. They're going to cast this all Black musical. And I think you should audition for it because I think you would be great. And so, because she believed in me, I said, I'm going to go. So I went to that audition and I didn't think anything of it. And I went back to my dorm room, which we had these apartments at this time. And one day I came back from class and one of my roommates said, "This guy, David Shepard, called you and he wants you to call him back immediately." And I thought they were joking because they all knew about the audition that I'd gone to and they knew it was for David Shepard. So then I called him back. And what he said to me was, "I'm definitely going to cast you for the show that you auditioned for." He said, "But I also want to cast you for the show that I'm about to do now called Crazy Horse Saloon Review 2." And so he put me in that show first. And then I did I think it was called Blackbirds of 1978. So I'm still this teenager and I'm learning, oh my goodness, and they're musicals. Excuse me. So I'm still comfortable, doing musicals. Well, of course, I thought I better see if this is what I really want to do, or else I need to focus on school and just, get my degree. Well, I ended up leaving those two shows and going to a show called The Robber Bridegroom. And I found out after I left Georgia, the young guy who was in that musical with me, The Robber Bridegroom, he ended up landing a television show that was being filmed in my hometown, right in my backyard, called Dukes of Hazzards. But I had moved to New York by then. And so, because some kids had called me who had been a part of that first musical and said, "Ellia, they're doing this musical called Ain't Misbehaving, and you would be perfect for it. It's an open call and you can come and audition." So I thought, okay, this is it. If I go to New York and I can make it there, like that song says, if I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. So I decided I'm going to go. I gave myself only 2.5 weeks to find a job, to actually land something, or I was coming back home, going back to school and, probably going into becoming a physicist. So I went, I auditioned, and it was a huge open call. And what that means, when you do open call in theater, it means that if you're a non-member, you can come. Anybody who is not an equity member can come to that audition. And I think there was like at least over 1,000 people at that audition. And yes, and I think my number, I used to know it exactly, but I believe I might have been either 1,001 or 1,002 or something like that. So that's how, when I got there to sign in, that's what my number was that they gave me. And I auditioned for it and I got a couple of callbacks. And in that last callback, I let them know that I was only going to be there 2 weeks. And they were like, "Okay, well, give us your information in Atlanta so that we can then, if we want to get in touch with you there." So while I was waiting to see if they were going to call me, I said, I might as well. I got I got another week here or so. I may as well go and just get some auditioning experiences. Well, I went and I auditioned for a lot of things, and I did what was for mostly off Broadway, and I landed this off Broadway project called the Jerome Kern Review, and it was going to be all this music about Jerome Kern, and you had to sing, and you had to dance, and you had to act, and that kind of thing. And the day that I learned that I was now a part of this off Broadway production, the Jerome Kern Review, I got a call at that theater that the Ain't Misbehaving people were looking for me because they wanted to hire me. Can you believe it? And so they were hiring me as something, it was something I'd never heard before, but the one word I remembered was understudy. And so the kids were like, in the cast of the Jerome Kern review, we had just, we were getting to know each other. They were like, you shouldn't take that job because an understudy practically never goes on. But right here, you have a role and you're a lead role and you'll be working. People will see you. And I said to them, but that was what I came here to do. And if they're going to hire me, I think I should go and follow through. Well, I went, took the job. I rehearsed for 2.5 weeks and then I performed for 3.5 weeks. And a lot of the kids who came, who were with me in that Jerome Kern review, they came to see me perform and they were like, we're so glad you didn't listen to us. We didn't think you'd ever get to go on. And so I ended up, the young lady who I was covering for, they had to call her. She had been having trouble with understudies not being able to sustain. And so every time she tried to take a vacation, they kept calling her back. So she was having a happy vacation because she didn't, I was ready to go on for that 4th week. And they were like, if you don't come back for this last week, we have to give her the role because any actor that goes on for the entire month, they have to now own the role. So all she had to do was come back, perform for that week, and then I took over again. So and then what I became for the show was what is called a standby, not an understudy. And a standby meant that if ever I had to show up as if I'm going to do the show, I had to have myself partially made up and I had to stay until they were getting ready to sing the last song. Because at any given moment, I could be called on the intercom saying, Ellia, get dressed. We need you on the stage. Because if any performer, the ones I was covering, I actually made myself a little too valuable because I could do all 3 female roles in the show. And so if any actor got injured during the performance, and when they came off the stage, I had to be dressed and ready and walk in on the stage doing the show without the audience knowing that anything had happened, with the exception of probably looking around going, was that the same actress we saw before? But they didn't really know, and I'd have to do the entire show. And that was the blessing. That was when I said, okay, I think this is where I should be. But at this point in time, the comedy came through theater and Ain't Misbehaving. We were doing musical theater comedy. And it was wonderful because it was a Fats Waller musical. It was about his music, about that genre. I learned so much because remember, and I'm still the youngest one, for whatever reason, you and I are finding ourselves every time we go somewhere, we're the youngest one in the environment. But I learned so much, and the people, they were wonderful, that cast, working with them, and the friendships. I mean, I got to work with the likes of Nell Carter. I got to work with Amelia McQueen. God rest both their souls. My heart still goes out. It's a privilege and an honor. And Andre DeShields, he and I are still in touch. And then Ken Page and Charlene Woodard. It was a wonderful cast. It was a wonderful beginning for me. And then from then on, I said, okay, I'm going to keep pursuing it and see what happens. And here I am today, humbly grateful. Don't make me cry.
Wow, this is such a wonderful story. It's like a Cinderella story. And I wish I could have seen pictures of you playing one of the Supremes, Diana Ross in particular, when you were younger.
When I was little, I know. I wish we had taken pictures then. No. And we did play dress up too. Of course, my mom would have to get us because we go in her closet to take out things so that we could do. And she's like, where's my? And we try to hide it and then try to hurry up, wash it, and get it back in her closet. And her jewelry, we were always in her jewelry boxes. We wanted to make ourselves look like fancy Supremes. And of course, I was the culprit. I was the leader. The other 2 were just following me. We had so much fun. Oh wow. I wish we had taken pictures of that, but yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah.
Well, speaking of wonderful, this was a wonderful interview, and I look forward to connecting with you again for Right on Digital.
Oh, I would love it. I would
Thank you.
love it. Thank you.
Thank you, my lovely Soarer. And we will be in contact again soon because now I have some ideas about some things that we should do together.
Don't make me scream. Don't make me scream.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me scream this way. Let me say hi to my Soras.
Okay.
Thank you, beautiful. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.